Before we begin the podcast, I just wanted to say that you do have a career, Toby, if you choose to pursue it in radio. Your voice just sounds delicious.
I appreciate it, but I don't believe you. So we'll just leave it at that and move forward.
You don't have like a experience with a college radio show or something? You really do sound like a great DJ.
No. I've never worked in a gentleman's club. I've never done anything like that. So,
well, just in case you choose to expand your professional pursuits. Hey, Unlocked listeners. This episode's brought to you by Point Central, the leader in business-grade smart property solutions designed for rental properties. Point Central's technology helps you increase property safety, reduce operational costs, and improve guest satisfaction. Head over to pointcentral.com/VRMB to learn more. And Rental Guardian. With over 1 million property owners, thousands of property managers, hundreds of software partners and counting, Rental Guardian is arguably the most complete and trusted travel and damage protection platform in the industry. You can learn more at rentalguardian.com. And Breezeway. Breezeway's operations platform makes it easy to ensure quality, safety, and cleanliness across your properties so you can deliver an amazing guest experience every time. Head over to breezeway.io to learn more. What's up, party people?
Hey, how's it going, Matt?
It took you a while to respond. Did you, for a second, think that I was talking to someone else?
Yeah. I'm like, is he gonna say something else?
I always call you guys party people. How are you guys?
Hey, we're party people. That's how we are. We're just here.
Partying.
We're missing the vacation rental industry parties.
Rave time.
Yes, that makes 3 of us. We've spent the last few years jumping around to most vacation rental industry events. You guys have enjoyed those events, not only because of the people, but also because of the destinations and the food and the drinks. VRMA is like one of the biggest ones of the year, really, the Vacation Rental Management Association. Do you guys remember our first VRMA a couple years ago in Vegas?
Yeah, when we ran out of the room full of sponsors to add a sneaky element of whatever to our presentation. I think you were wearing a couch.
What do you mean wearing a couch?
I have a distinct memory of a jacket that was a very interesting pattern.
Oh, that's called high fashion, actually. That's called really nice jacket from Hugo Boss.
High fashion, haute couture, or whatever. How do you pronounce it, honey? That's how you pronounce it.
I'll tell you how you don't pronounce it. Couch.
I'm sorry, Matt. We're there talking to the sponsors, trying to not explain anything that's going on, but also not explain anything that's going on. I have very fond memories of that. Not to mention VRMA, I mean, we had been to several industry events with you at this point, always based around a specific brand or sponsor. We love those people and we love those conferences, but VRMA was interesting because it's a place where the entire industry came together seemingly to work for the betterment of the industry. So that was kind of the first time that I had seen that particular mix. And then we went on to see it again in New Orleans, which was a lot of fun.
And it was my first time in Vegas.
That makes 2 of us. Vegas was a little overwhelming for me. In fact, I remember having a borderline panic attack when I couldn't get out of a casino. And then when I finally got into the street, I couldn't even get to the Uber because there was all these big gates and people in the way. I was really freaking out a bit. But I did want to give quick shout out to Mr. Mike Copps, who unfortunately, I don't know if you guys knew this, is not with VRMA anymore.
Well, I got a hint of it from our upcoming guest, but I wondered what was going on.
Yeah, so Mike has moved on to a new opportunity. We had the chance to feature Mike on the podcast last season, but it was also Mike who acted as a wonderful bridge for us into the VRMA community. That Vegas show he made a very nice gesture of allowing us to show the vacation rental show trailer to a gigantic room full of attendees who I think are still just terribly confused as to what was going on. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I would. But I guess the good news is that VRMA seems to choose their presidents well, because this upcoming guest, Toby, he really struck me as someone who is putting aside all kinds of personal stresses and stuff to work hard for the industry. And that was pretty impressive to hear in a time of crisis. I'm glad that there's somebody out there thinking about the industry as a whole from that kind of perspective.
Yeah. Tammy, did you, in listening to this interview and getting people excited, was there anything kind of stood out to you about Toby as this new leader leading the charge?
For me, what stood out the most is to listen to someone in an authority position with leadership, understanding that a big problem that the industry has right now is the standards. So listening about the new VRMA cleaning guidelines post-COVID, for me, that was very, very interesting.
As I understand it, they've actually come out since we recorded this podcast with a very official set of standards for how the industry can proceed in the post-COVID world. Is that correct, Matt?
Yeah, they have. And they've been doing a really fantastic job. And I'm especially convinced and confident in Toby, because I liked how he said that he thinks he thrives the most in times of chaos, which is really what you want in a leader. I don't think I would have ever said that about myself, certainly. So it's really cool to hear that he's kind of made for this. With that said, should we get on with the interview and just quit rambling?
Yeah, let's hear some Toby Babich.
That's it.
Here we go. Toby Babich. That's you, right?
That is me.
Toby Babich is the president and CEO of Breckenridge Resort Managers in Colorado. He's served on what feels like so many boards and committees over his career that there are too many to mention in this introduction. And as of last October, he is the president of the Vacation Rental Management Association. Today, we are going to talk about life handing us lemons, and we're going to talk about the future of vacation rental management, where our businesses fit in our communities. Toby Babich, welcome to Unlocked.
Man, thank you for having me, Matt. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. I appreciate it. You reaching out. This seems like an opportune time for us to talk, given everything that's going on in our industry and in our world, and really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's interesting how this time has actually prompted me to have more introductory phone calls with people that I've never chatted with before, just because we all have a little bit of time on our hands.
I was having a bit of time on my hands, but I got to tell you, I go from phone call to phone call, webinar to webinar. I've been recording myself, my president's messages for the VRMA. I've never worked so hard to make so little money, but I'm glad to do it to support our industry.
When you signed up for the president of VRMA role, were you expecting this?
No. I mean, I think that's what goes without saying. No, but as significant as COVID is, we've also had, as you know, Mike Kopp stepped out of his executive director role, and it has been an introduction to a new part-time job for me. And, not taking away anything from our staff, they are fantastic at the VRMA. But we've got two major upheavals going on right now, and I've had to step into my role, I think, a little bit more deeply than I ever considered I would have.
And I'm guessing, I was actually considering for your introduction, just introducing you as Toby Babich, husband to Loretta. Would that have done you justice?
I think it would have done her justice. She would say, "Oh, start." That would be her exact comment. I'll have her listen to this, and I'll get the side eye out of it. But I appreciate you bringing it up.
And tell our listeners what a normal stay-at-home /quarantine day is for you and the Babich family.
The Babich family, yes. The three girls. I've got a 14-year-old who just started her first year in high school. I got a middle schooler in sixth grade, and I still have a kid in elementary school, and they are all I don't know what I would do without them. They are what brings me joy and sanity on a daily basis. I get to wake up, we make breakfast. The high schooler rolls out of bed around 11 o'clock because she finally has that opportunity. We do our schoolwork, we do some hugging, we do some playing of basketball out on the back deck on the new hoop that I just set up. We play with the dog. We cook some dinner, watch a movie, get cozy, and go to bed. And then we do it all again the next day. It's actually a pretty good gig right now.
I think for a lot of people who were working in offices, it sounds so weird to say like not working at home, but we're working out in the field. I feel like this has really just been time to enjoy the family again. My question for you, do you think in a post-COVID world, this time that you are spending with your family, perhaps cherishing it more than ever before, does that factor into your work schedule, or has it always been kind of a nice, easy balance of work and life?
You know, we've worked really hard since our first child was born to have a really solid balance of work and home life. And, you know, one of the things that has really made itself apparent over the last couple of years as my business has grown and my kids have gotten older is that the demands on our time are creating an environment where we don't get that quality time as a family. So this, more than anything, and you and I discussed this on our prior call, I mean, it's really balanced things out. I am really enjoying the slowdown and being able to focus on my family, even if there's a lot of bad things swirling around us right now, and there are a lot of really good things inside of our home and inside of our lives that I'm really enjoying.
Yeah, I've heard that in crises, billionaires are made. And my interpretation of that, because most of the people that I know aren't desperate to become billionaires, they just want to make enough money that they can live comfortably with their family and have freedom. I think my interpretation of that is that this crisis, and I'd like to talk more about it in a few minutes, but I really do think it's going to challenge a lot of our colleagues to rethink what is their ideal business life balance. What does it mean to be rich these days? Maybe it's living and working in a place that you love. Maybe it's spending time with your family. I think this is really putting everything into an entirely new kind of context. For those who don't know, I want to talk mostly about your management company today and not to overshadow your new role with VRMA. How many properties does the company represent, and how long have you been in business now?
We have 55 properties. We've been in business for right at 12 years. In addition to the vacation rentals, and I think I mentioned this to you, we also have a real estate arm. We also have a community management arm. So we're pretty well diversified just in terms of what our offerings are here locally. But the vacation rentals were essentially the first business that we developed up here, and definitely my true passion.
And what's community management, out of curiosity? I love that that's a branch of the operation.
Yeah, so community management. So up here we have homeowners associations, and a lot of them are in condo complexes and larger buildings of between 12 and say 200 units. Within those buildings, there's a governmental body, a board of directors that runs essentially the governance and the strategy aspect of things, and they'll hire a manager and bring that manager in to execute that strategy and to manage the daily operations of their community, which involves snow removal and hot tub cleaning and landscaping and collecting receivables and payables, accounting functions. So we take care of those kind of things as well.
And for those who are listening who don't have this kind of branch about their business, because this is, I'm guessing, a formal revenue stream, what has been the impact of having that kind of role in those local communities, be it a building or a broader neighborhood? What has the result of that been in this time of crisis right now when our communities really matter?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what it means for the communities, I actually just got off a phone call a couple hours ago with my team, and part of our role there is to make sure that people that are still living in those communities are safe. Now, there are a lot of second homeowners in those communities that are not here currently because they rent their properties out, but there still are a lot of residents. And as guests are starting to be reintroduced into our community as COVID heals and goes away, we're really going to be in charge of making sure people are safe at our properties and not transmitting things back and forth to one another to the extent that we have the ability. So there's a lot of responsibility there as the community manager. As a business, though, it's been very nice because in the absence of revenue from vacation rentals, we still do have that revenue from our communities that allows us to continue to operate and keep our staff to a certain extent and still have something to do. It's been very nice for us as a business.
I was really only introduced to it. It really crystallized in my mind after meeting Jeannie Daly. I don't know if you know Jeannie in Florida.
I sat next to Jeannie on a bus in California. We went from Rancho Palos Verdes at our executive summit for VRMA down to a whale watching tour, and I got to know her really well. She's a great lady. I'm good friends with her son-in-law and her daughter, Tiffany and Ben, and what a great group of people those are.
And they have a really neat, diversified, complex, simple in that sense, business model. And they do have an administration kind of management, like you just called community management. They also have a cleaning side of the business, and the real estate really balances out and sort of gives a little bit of stability to an otherwise singular pillar of vacation rentals. You mentioned being part of committees, and as we talked about earlier, you've been on boards your entire life. That's something that not everybody is cut out for. I certainly never wake up thinking to myself, I want to join a board or be part of a committee. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the people who do. What kind of outcomes do you see? What kind of outcomes make it all worthwhile, those kinds of roles in organizations and communities? What do you see that makes you say, okay, this is why I do this work?
I just fundamentally, I enjoy giving back to people. I enjoy being part of solutions. I enjoy making tough decisions. I'm the type of person that really thrives in chaos. And, going back to the discussion we were having before we started this, I'm very well versed in it. And, I can tell you my early board and committee service was pretty clunky. It does take a little bit of learning. You really do have to have the mentality of, if I get on this board or if I get on this committee, my opinion, though I want to put it out on the table, is not the main focus of my service. I am here to serve others, and my opinion is going to take a back seat. Even if that means I have to vote or I have to support something I don't necessarily internally support, if it's for the good of everybody else, then, I've got to move in that direction. It takes a lot of discipline and a lot of responsibility, and it really does take a person who's willing to give of themselves.
Yeah, I'm now kind of embarrassed that I revealed that I never wanted to be on that kind of board, but I'm now realizing that it's also a chance to contribute your voice to a solution around any given problem. And instead of just complaining about something, actually taking an involved role is the first step to change. This is a perfect opportunity to introduce you to one of our sponsors, Breezeway. Breezeway's property care and operations platform solves the challenge of ensuring clean, safe, and high-quality properties in the wake of COVID-19, combining deep learning technology with mobile-first task management. Breezeway automates your operations, and it gives you confidence that every property is ready for the next stay. You guys remember our interview for the podcast with Jeremiah way back in the day in Arizona?
Yeah, we've been talking about Breezeway for a long time. And it's interesting because it's always sounded kind of fascinating, but now it sounds like it's going to be absolutely essential for businesses moving forward.
It's one of those companies that whenever we host one of our inner circle roundtable discussions, whenever people begin talking about cleaning apps, someone mentions Breezeway and just raves about it, and then everyone in the room is like, wait, what is that? And they all write it down, and they all go off and use it. You've seen it like a couple of times, right?
Yeah, that's what I always remember about it. The first thing that comes to mind is people never saying a bad thing about it.
Yeah.
About their customer service, about the service they provide, all the problems they've solved for their businesses. It's just the number one example on how do you keep track of checkouts, property maintenance, and cleaning, and all these things that can turn more complicated than they should be.
Are you secretly like a Breezeway employee? Because that just sounded like the most perfect pitch.
I wanted to tell you that I'm actually gonna quit. I'm gonna quit the podcast.
You're quitting
Yes.
our team and heading over to Breezeway?
Yes.
And you're going to reveal it on this podcast live? Gosh. Well, you'll be in good company because we also interviewed Corinne Oki. Do you remember that last year?
We do, yeah.
Yep. Scottsdale.
She's a wonderful ambassador of the industry. I always like to say that a product in the industry needs to be really good, and that's important. But the people who are behind the product are as, if not more important. And one of the things I've always just really admired about this team at Breezeway is that they're upstanding folks, and they are cool to hang out with, and they're patient answering questions. Breezeway was created by the founder of Flipkey. That's our friend Jeremiah. Breezeway is helping over 400 vacation rental managers transform the way they care for properties and best respond to COVID-19. And in this new travel future, we need to be using the best tools at our disposal to create safe environments for our travelers. So you can head over to breezeway.io to learn more. That's Breezeway, BREEZEWAY.io. So I kind of am curious where all of this came from. I know you, your life started where? Remind me.
Oh yeah. So my short and sweet story is my father was a 60-year-old casino boss in Las Vegas. My mother was a 26-year-old cocktail waitress in the same casino, and I was a huge surprise. And that's where my life got. So I was born at, and it's funny, you look at my birth certificate, I was born in Las Vegas, Nevada. My place of birth listed on my birth certificate is the Nevada Club Hotel. So I'll have to show it to you one day. It was quite an interesting story, just, my birth and how I came to be. But also, just my upbringing they divorced really early, and a long string of mental problems for within my family, and kind of a chaotic upbringing. But I got to tell you, it's made me a much stronger person as an adult, and hopefully my kids would agree. I think they would, a much better father than I could have ever imagined to be.
And I mean, the vacation rental industry itself is kind of notorious for its surprises that it springs on its constituents. Most owners and managers have some form of what I call Murphy's vacation rental law, which is if it can happen, it will. Yeah. Your life has dealt you all kinds of lemons. You've been problem solving and overcoming this kind of adversity now for quite some time. What do you tell yourself as a property manager in the middle of this pandemic of a lifetime that has turned a lot of people's worlds upside down? Is there anything you kind of remind yourself after learning over the years?
It's not so much a reminder, just a way of operating internally. As I mentioned, I have a habit. I'm able to thrive in chaos, and I really enjoy challenges. One of the things that's very difficult for me in my personal life is the mundane, doing the same thing over and over, being safe, being bland. these kind of challenges really, I feel, and I hate to sound like I'm bragging here, and I'm really not, but I feel like they bring out the best in me. And I invite them. As horrible as this is, um, what I understand from living the life that I've lived is that there are great opportunities. And Matt, you mentioned this with the billionaire comment. There are great opportunities within the midst of chaos and challenge, and I love finding those, and I love persevering, and I love the satisfaction I get out of helping people come along with me, and watching people succeed. And I'm really enjoying doing that right now.
And so, what does that actually look like? I want to talk first about your vacation rental management company and then about the association in a few minutes. But what does getting through this chaos look like within your company, both in stopping the bleeding and in beginning to tighten the bolts and moving forward? What kind of stuff did you do and are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, we of course, because of my involvement here locally, and with VRMA, and I'm also, and this too, I'm a mayor here locally. Um, I got a lot of this information early on, and I was kind of seeing the trending of things, and I've been involved with a lot of decisions on the ground. So, that allowed me to very early on adopt some both internal financial controls and external revenue generating efforts that we were able to implement pretty quickly. In addition, I was able to apply for one of those PPP loans, they're calling them, but it's essentially a grant early on. We were able to get funded with that. And then, moving forward, I'm happy we've been able to retain our staff. We are pivoting to more of a hands-on operational type of a business while we are weathering this storm. And I fully expect, even though times are going to be difficult, I don't want to give anybody the wrong impression. We're all going to have to make sacrifices, but I fully anticipate we're going to come out of this storm, and we'll be fine, and we'll all be stronger for it.
What are some of those income generators? I'm curious. You just skimmed over that like it was
Yeah.
obvious, but I want to know.
Yeah. So both with our vacation rentals and more specifically with our communities, we contract out a lot of things: hot tub service, landscaping, snow removal, repairs, projects. We do a lot of those kind of things outside of our main staff, just because our staff up until this point has been very involved in servicing our vacation rentals and our guests, but we don't have that. So we're going to redirect our staff and start capturing some of those revenue opportunities. For instance, just to kind of get granular with it, to service hot tubs here in Colorado, you have to have what's called a certified pool operator, a CPO license. So we had all of our guys go down and get CPO certified so we could start servicing our own hot tubs and make that a revenue.
Where do you go to
component
do
of our
that?
business. Down to Denver. I can't remember the name of the company, but it basically,
Okay.
hour and a half away from us. You go down and do a 1-day class online, a 1-day class in person, take a test, and you're certified.
Beautiful. I'm envisioning some kind of hot tub like mecca compound where people are just professional hot tub extraordinaires. Are there other kinds of services like that people can begin thinking about if they're not in necessarily a hot tub destination?
Yeah, I mean, there is always going to be, in a second home market, a lot of need for maintenance, repairs, and property care. So,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen, and we have early on. I have another company called Breck Happy Homes, where we just caretake for people. So you go in once a month, once a week, whatever the contract calls for. You flip on the lights, you make sure the boiler's working, you make sure no pipes are frozen and there's no leaks. So the true second homeowners are able to have peace of mind that their investments are maintained and well cared for. So there's that, and there's a lot of things one can do in a second home in a vacation market outside of vacation rentals to earn revenue.
And you mentioned that your staff is all still on, which is absolutely amazing. A
Yeah,
testament to the cash reserves that you built up clearly. And did you
yeah.
say the PPP thing came through for you?
It did. It was, I
Nice.
think, a week and a half ago we were able to get that loan, which was
Because a lot of
we
people are having major problems with that.
yeah. Well, and we were an early adopter, and I had a plan in place that we were going to be fine without it. But I got to tell you, it took a lot of pressure off receiving that. And I think you may know already, Matt, but they are going to replenish that program to the tune of 300 billion. I believe that passed this week. So
Yep.
hopefully, a lot of our VRMA members and vacation rental managers, and even just our business community nationally, will be able to uh, partake in some of those funds so that they can survive.
Yep. And hopefully by the time people are actually listening to this episode, they've already received it. If you're
Yeah.
listening to this and you received your check, throw a couple of dollar bills in the air for me and Toby. What is your staff doing if guests aren't coming to town? Are they focusing on maintenance of properties? Are they out looking for new properties? Are they working on marketing? What is the most effective thing to be doing right now?
Yeah, one of the things that I think not everybody's going to be able to do it, but we were able to just February 15th, just as this pandemic was starting to become more apparent. My wife and I actually closed on an operations center. It's a warehouse in Breckenridge with a residential unit above it, and it was neglected. Let's just say that it needed a little bit of work. So we've had our guys actually working on that for the last 6 weeks. They've been putting in full days over there. But once they're done with that, and more to the point of what can anybody do, they're going to be doing property checks. They're going to be doing minor repairs. They're going to be doing painting. They've learned how to drywall. They'll be doing hot tubs. And as summer starts unfolding and we start seeing what kind of guest population we're going to be servicing, we will figure out what the next step of that evolution is.
I hope. I mean, the ski season has got to be quite the blow, but my hope is that there are certain kinds of recreational destinations, golf being a great example, skiing when season comes back around, hikes, being in the great outdoors, that thrive in a post-COVID kind of social distancing leisure market.
Right.
And that would be Breck. Does that fit the bill?
Definitely. I mean, we are a completely outdoor destination, unlike, God, I take my family to Disney, as many times a year as we can, but, places like that where you're exposed to large crowds, they're going to have a really hard time with recovery for a while until there's a vaccine or a cure. But we are definitely an outdoor destination, complete outdoor activity based, mountain biking, rafting, hiking, horseback riding. I mean, we are one of those kind of destinations where you can come to and enjoy yourself really safely with your own pod of people without cross-contaminating with others. And I think it's really going to serve us well over the long term.
A pod of people. I like
A
that.
pod. Yeah,
Yeah, like
my
whales.
brain flashed to whatever that movie was with Donald Sutherland in the 70s. I can't even remember what it's called now, but
Stuart, what's the name of that? What's the name of that movie?
They come from a dying world. They drift through the universe, pushed on by the solar winds. They adapt, and they survive.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yeah, they were
There you
growing,
go.
yeah, they were growing people in pods. It was I'm a 70s kid. I'm sorry.
I like the idea of taking a vacation in a pod with people like my family.
Sleep.
Toby, when you start to look at travelers returning, I think you are in my camp that vacation rentals are almost thrust into the spotlight in terms of our value proposition. Standalone properties and or properties with their own entrance that don't require you walking through a bunch of people or touching a bunch of elevator buttons in order to get into your room. Kitchens that you can cook in as opposed to having to go out. The value of being able to take a vacation in in a recession kind of environment. My big concern / question is how, under the umbrella of cleaning, once an owner or manager has adopted top-notch cleaning practices, how do we communicate that to travelers who, in all fairness, have always been a little skeptical about consistency for vacation rental properties?
Yeah, and fully agreed. I think even though most of the vacation rental industry, I would say the vast majority of us deliver a hotel quality product relative to how we clean and prepare it, we don't get the recognition for that, and people are very skeptical, and that does have to do with the fact that we don't have a lot of widely adopted standards in our industry. One of the things we're working on right now at the VRMA level, and I'm pushing forward with, because we're going to have a huge need for this as we proceed forward into 2020, is a set of guidelines or standards or recommendations that the VRMA is going to push out to anybody in the professional vacation rental manager realm, that articulate what we need to be doing to build confidence in our guests that we are delivering that hotel quality, or sometimes better than hotel quality product. And then for each individual manager, it is going to be incumbent on us that is the lead message in any marketing we put out for the foreseeable future. We have got to reestablish trust and comfort in our travelers that are going to be itching to go somewhere other than their house.
Mm-hmm. I love that idea, and I love that it's going to be accessible to anyone, because one of the demographics that I'm quite familiar with, that I know because I work with them on a regular basis, do a fantastic job. The people who own and or manage anywhere from 2 to 5, and in a lot of cases, their own properties, boutique little fleets that have high margins, very professionally done, but typically don't get recognized as the conventional property management sphere. Certainly, they don't sign up for VRMA. But what I love about this kind of thing is that it kind of democratizes everything and says, if you want to adhere to the top guidelines, here they are. And then communicating that really falls on everybody's shoulders, which perfectly leads me into my next question. There's going to be a lot of people who aren't willing to adhere to those guidelines, or who do continue to do this casually or as a hobbyist, a lot of whom are basically planted on the Airbnb landscape. How do we differentiate ourselves from that casual host? Is it merely saying over and over again how professional we are, or is there other things that we can be doing so that travelers can distinguish between the two?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. There is such a blend. We've got, really, if you look at it, 5 or 6 major listing/booking platforms. And whether you are a hobbyist, or whether and there are some owners out there that do it right, I want to give them their due, or whether you're a small manager or a large scale manager, we are all the same to the traveler on that platform. We are a host, we are a listing, we are a property, and they don't have any insight, nor have they really thought about having any insight into what kind of product we are going to deliver when they get on the ground.
Totally.
And it's going to be very incumbent on us to not only adopt a certain standard and communicate it out individually, but yeah, Matt, unfortunately, it really is on us to continue to parrot out the fact that we are professionals, and not just use the term professional to make yourself feel good, but use the term professional as a badge of honor of the steps and precautions you have taken to make sure your guest has the best experience and the safest experience possible. It is a responsibility that we carry, and if you're going to call yourself a professional, then you damn well better carry that responsibility seriously.
And the people who are down the street doing things unprofessionally, it's kind of on you. Your butt's on the line here, because if they do a bad job, you're the first one who's going to be hurting moving forward.
Yes, exactly. And we are, as individual managers, are the ones who receive that feedback, and we process it. And not everybody uses it to improve. Some of them, they just take it and pass it by, and they continue doing what they're doing, and they're not really adding anything to the industry from a "this is what a professional is" standpoint.
Hmm. I think a big part of being a professional is using the right tools. Not just using tools, because there's plenty of people trying to smash in a nail with a screwdriver. It's got to be the right tool for the right job. What kind of technology, this is a two-part question. Part one,
Sure.
what kind of technology at your company is going to be extra important moving forward? That's question one.
That is a fantastic question, and it's really something that we are going to start pushing out as we engage our guests and our owners. And the first thing is the product, uh, making sure we have the correct disinfecting products, and more importantly, making sure we use them correctly. I think a lot of people say they disinfect and they spray it on, they wipe it off. That doesn't do
Right.
anything. You've got to spray it on. You've got to let it sit for a certain amount of time. Then you can wipe it off.
I think my mom scolded at me last night when I was trying to do that to the dinner table. I was trying to go to bed early. She told me that.
Well, if she needs a job, you can send her my way. I need some quality control up in here. Um, but there's also the application technique. There's things out there that there are electrostatic sprayers that will distribute that sort of product into your property on the fabrics and on the cushions and the leathers and the high touch points that a lot of people in the vacation rental industry use. And frankly, there's making sure, and I don't want this to get lost too. We want our guests to be safe, but also our employees is very important, and making sure they're taking the proper precautions. They're using their nitrile or latex gloves with their masks, and that they're washing their hands, and that they have bottles of hand sanitizer with them. I mean, we have got, and it's still in development as we look at what the needs are going to be, but we've got a pretty involved list of product and process that we are going to be introducing. So those are just some of the things that we can do to really step the game up.
Amazing. And my question was more broadly about technology in the management business itself, but I love how you just ran with that in the cleaning niche, because I think cleaning is going to be certainly at the very front of everybody's businesses moving forward. But my guess is that something like a property management software is going to be a part of your business moving forward. Are there other main pillars that you think are going to be as important as ever before on the tech front?
Yeah, as much as I haven't been a fan of remote check-in, because I think it depersonalizes what should be a very personal product in attending to someone's vacation, I think that's going to need to really quickly become the standard. I mean, I think people not only are going to seek out companies that allow them just to go straight to their properties and avoid offices and having to park and touch parking meters and door handles they don't have to, but it's more convenient for them and it's safer for the staff too. So keyless entry, I think, is going to become something people really need to adopt and adapt to as we move forward.
This is a perfect chance to introduce you to Point Central, the home automation experts of our industry. Let Point Central help you reduce hassle and improve your income through smart home automation. Eliminate keys with connected door locks, allowing guests to go directly to their rental, removing late night trips due to lost keys, and get notifications when cleaning crews or maintenance teams complete their work. This actually seems especially relevant to me today in the post-COVID world, where people, all people really, travelers especially, are going to be kind of on edge. And the fewer touch points, the fewer germs that are going in and out of that property, the better. Control utility bills with Point Central by scheduling set points so that renters cannot drastically raise or lower the temperature when the property's occupied. So the temperature basically stays consistent when it's vacant. Stu and Tammy, you guys put the temperature on like Arctic blast. Is that a Panama thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they do have it on Arctic Blast a lot of places in Panama, although where we live, we don't have air conditioning. But a lot of times when we're in vacation rentals and
I don't know, it's just nice to sleep with the covers on and have it cool.
Yeah.
Plus, you're apparently, a reptile and you love just warm weather all the time.
That is Mr. Reptile.
I think maybe we're just like sweaty people.
You are sweaty people. That's a fact.
But no, really, seriously,
There's a lot of systems in our house. We live off the grid, and the more automation we can bring to it, the better in terms of when generators turn on, when solar panels turn on, when batteries charge, when they don't charge. I'd love to be able to lock the doors. I'd love to have some home automated camera systems that are sending me alerts when there's motion sensors going on. And eventually I want automated climate control. So I'm going to be one of the first people to sign up for Point Central just as soon as I get some of the other things like electricity working.
Hot damn. Talk about an endorsement. Point Central can also help prevent costly maintenance projects through real-time alerts such as water leak detectors, humidity limits, and the new HVAC analytics program. Tells you early on when your HVAC unit starts to misbehave. I've become like an expert on HVAC analytics since I started working with Point Central, and it is indeed a very helpful thing. Finally, Point Central helps you give owners an extra peace of mind with monitored life safety services such as smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and intrusion monitoring. Visit pointcentral.com/VRMB to learn more. That's pointcentral.com/VRMB. That was in my best automated voice. Let's get back to the show.
We use a property management system that enables us to not only schedule things a little bit more efficiently and make sure that our team is operating in the field efficiently, but it also allows us to communicate with our guests pre-arrival. And that is important because we can send them a lot of information on what we're doing to make sure you're traveling safe, what to expect when you get to the property, what sort of precautions we've taken to make your environment clean and healthy for you. And, frankly, what the next step is going to be from a governmental role is how you conduct yourself as a guest in someone's destination under the new COVID banner. There's going to be social distancing. There's going to be only so many people allowed to go inside a restaurant at a particular time. We have what are called trailheads up here where people park to go mountain biking or hiking. There can only be so many people there. If you're going to be on a trail, you need to, there's going to be a lot of things coming down the pipe, and we're able to communicate those with our guests very efficiently through technology.
And so the responsibility of a traveler is something I hadn't even thought about, but irresponsible travelers in the past are already the ones who are getting vacation rental professionals giving us sort of a bad rap with some neighbors. And this is a whole new level of respect for the destination. We talked about technology, and yet this is hospitality. This is an industry that thrives on me welcoming you into my space and taking care of you. And this is now part 2 of that question, by the way. Sure. I didn't lose track.
I think I made it into part 3. Excuse me.
You did make a nice segue. What are some of the things that humans will need to do moving forward more than ever before?
I think overarching of all this is we're going to have a high degree of respect for our responsibility to our fellow humans. And I think it's something that's been lost, at least since I've been an adult. People have become, in the digital age, very insular and very self-absorbed. I think it's time to raise our eyes and look around and look at the impact we're having on our fellow humans from a human to human standpoint. So, if you are an irresponsible guest, if you are an irresponsible vacationer, it's time to open your eyes and look around. There are people that need us all to be engaged in this solution, and that this is the saying of one bad apple is definitely how we need to look at this. One bad apple in a bunch out here can cause a lot of infection, can cause a lot of difficulty for our small destinations, and it's time for everybody to wake up and start thinking about your fellow man when you're operating in our vacation destinations.
And I'll throw a complementary aspect onto that. Single bad apple ruins the bunch is something we've all encountered. But if you are taking your guests or your neighbors or your employees or your, stakeholders at a face-to-face, honest, if you're building a real relationship, even one great new relationship really matters. And I get the feeling that a lot of owners and managers over the years have gotten a little bit lazy with those meaningful relationships with guests that actually are right now more important than ever before. I've always been a huge fan of doubling down and really investing yourself in that guest, in that employee. Maybe you are bending a little bit on the rules or the protocol or the refund or whatever it is. Because again, at the end of the day, this is about relationships. And maybe this isn't the kind of thing that can just be solved by a big checkbook or a gigantic corporation,
Yeah, definitely. And I really keep that in mind too. Our industry started based on relationships, and we really have to figure out how to adapt and maintain those relationships moving forward. Whether, like you said, it's a contractor, it's an employee, it's a guest. It's something we're looking at too. We are in a Zoom meeting world right now, where it's good and it's bad. But how do we engage and continue to set ourselves apart in this industry, maintaining our relationships when we're not supposed to be shaking hands or giving hugs?
Right. Yeah. Good point. I think the good news there is that a lot of people have that in them and have done it before. And in some cases, it was a one-off or it was accidental, but this is a reminder that you have that in you. And now's the time to really double down on it. Moving into your greater leadership role, you're no longer just responsible for your vacation rental community, but also the United States and actually world professional vacation rental management community. One, thank you for being at the front of this ship in such a crazy moment. I guess there would be no one I would prefer than someone who thinks that he thrives in chaos. Or I guess that could be a strange thing. But question for you, how do you think the following groups will rebound from this? First group is the traditional vacation rental manager. How do you think they rebound?
I think they have an opportunity to rebound quickly and effectively, provided that they are fully engaged in delivering a safe product to our travelers, and more importantly, articulating that they are going to deliver a safe product to our travelers.
And safety there means actually following safety guidelines that have been put out by, where do they get that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's something I'm encouraging a lot of people here on the ground through some of the things we do here internally to develop and implement what they can now, and there will be further guidance we're trying to develop at the VRMA level currently that can be more widely adopted.
Cool. And I'll give a shout out to Justin Ford, who the moment you say safety, he gets extremely excited. His ears perk up. He was over at Breezeway. What about the lease arbitrage or master lease models? Recently, we saw Stay Alfred has ceased operations. For those who are listening that don't know that phrase, it's basically long-term renting a property, or in this case, a lot of properties, and then sub-renting them to guests for short-term stays. What's the future? How do those people rebound?
And I want to say this with all due respect. I've met Jordan, and I do not wish for any facet of our industry to struggle. But I've got to say that is a tough facet of what we do. They operate on a very thin margin. And they are in metro areas, very crowded, dense areas in very crowded and dense buildings. And I think it's going to be a very tough road for them. And I hate to say that, but I see that they probably have the hardest, the steepest hill to climb right now.
Mm-hmm. And if we know these guys and gals, we know that they're brilliant, and they will most likely find some adjustment or new pivot to have a place in our future.
I certainly hope so.
What about what people kindly refer to as mega managers? What about the gigantic property management companies? How do they rebound?
You know, it's interesting, and Matt, you've probably been, you've seen some of the stories that have been popping up about some of our larger venture capital firms injecting cash into some of these larger mega managers, and I think, they have a better chance than the arbitrage models of recovery. Their challenge has always been, at least in my estimation, of having a standard and being able to execute it, because they're so spread out. You mentioned the boutique firms earlier. One of the things that I've always felt is a differentiator for a smaller operator, somebody below, 300 properties, 200 properties, that's local and boots on the ground, is that we're able to effectively manage our product. Our owners can get involved, our high-level executives can get involved, but it's harder for those mega managers. They're spread very thin. They do operate on lower margins, and I know, there's going to be a struggle.
In today's uncertain world, vacation rental managers are looking for ways to protect their revenue, their guests, and the rental units they manage. Rental Guardian delivers best-in-class travel protection, damage protection, and liability protection for over 600 property managers around the world. Now, times have changed a little bit, and Stewie, my guess is that you as a traveler, you're looking for more flexible cancellation policies when you book.
Absolutely. I don't think any travel over the next year or longer is going to happen without the ability to cancel plans at any time, given everything that's going on. So knowing that Rental Guardian is offering a way for hosts to be able to deliver that flexibility without getting hurt financially, I think that's a huge, huge component.
And it's actually a new innovation. I call it a technology of sorts that Brady and John at Rental Guardian had kind of been mulling over for years, in hearing from managers at these conferences, people saying, when are you going to offer cancel for any reason insurance? We want to protect ourselves. And only recently has Rental Guardian launched Master Cancel, which enables property managers the ability to offer flexible terms, like Stuart was just talking about, to their guests, while also protecting the hard-earned revenue of the property manager and the owners that we all represent. This is an important new innovation that has never really been done before. And using the terms and conditions of the property manager was the way that John and Brady found their way into this Master Cancel program. I think it's going to be a game changer for the industry. You can visit rentalguardian.com to learn more. That's rentalguardian.com to learn more. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, babe, you read my mind and know what I like. There's something to be said across the board about a crisis like this challenging every size manager, whether you manage 200, 2,000, or 20,000, to strip back some of the layers, because you have to, and begin to look at what at the core is the most effective model, the most effective formula. And I think you're right on in the sense that some of these bigger guys really do have a remarkable model. It's really hard to consistify that across many different states and or countries. But I like to think that no matter what size your business is, stripping back some of those layers and really looking at what works well and beginning to rebuild. At the very core, I think a lot of folks have some bright futures. My last group of folks are the ones who have vacation rental presences in multiple destinations. How do they rebound? Do they rebound quickly, or is it a disadvantage to be spread thin like this?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with disadvantage again there. Now, I'm gonna predicate that though, and give a caveat that, it depends on the strength of their local teams. They have very strong local teams in some markets. In some markets, they're a startup and they're trying to develop those strong teams. So, it's really going to depend on the strength of their individualized teams on the ground. But again, they struggle just like the mega managers, and maybe even more so because a lot of them don't have the operational stability that the mega managers do. I think it's going to be a tough road for them. But, again, it's going to be a tough road for all of us. What we're really going to need to see is who's up for this challenge, who's going to use this as a moment of growth. I just told my team today, it's a very difficult time for all of us. It's a difficult time for our industry, but we're going to use this time to reinvent ourselves, figure out new ways of doing things that build confidence with our guests, build safety within our properties, and, frankly, build revenue long term. And I think for those of us that are up to the challenge, and like you're saying, we're willing to peel back those layers and reinvent ourselves, I think there's a lot of room for success and growth in this industry. We just have to have the discipline to do it.
Yeah, if I've learned one thing about our colleagues over the years, it's that they are problem solvers, they are doers, they step up to the challenge and they excel. I think to a degree they are good in chaos, maybe not as good as you, Toby. But what I like to, the role I like to see here is them realizing how good they are at that kind of thing. And really stepping on the gas, really challenging themselves to find those new opportunities. The traditional obstacles that were in their way are now down, at least temporarily. The traditional structures, like figuratively speaking, are also in complete disarray. This is the moment for the creative problem solvers of hospitality to thrive. And at least the adversity that I have faced in my life, and this is kind of segueing, Toby, into my last question, has almost always resulted in some individuals coming out of nowhere and helping. And so I'm curious, do you see a new wave of vacation rental professionals entering our industry over the course of the coming year? And what's the top advice for them?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Matt. And I'm going to go back to really quick. We started this company, Breckenridge Resort Managers, in June of 2008. Now, if you recall what was going on in June of 2008, it wasn't necessarily the best time to start any business, much less a business that thrives on disposable income. But we did come in and we did start a business, and we started with one property. It was my wife and I. And we succeeded over the long term. So I would like to think and invite that we have some startups and some people with some new ideas of how to do things better. I think there is always an opportunity within difficulty, as I mentioned earlier. And I love to see people capitalize on those things and teach us new stuff, and bring new ideas and freshen things up and really challenge us as an industry to grow and to create new things. And I think we've done that over the 40 or 50 years we have been a vacation rental industry. So I don't know what that will look like necessarily, just in terms of trying to forecast what our industry will look like in 2 to 3 years. But I'm all for people entering and pushing and trying to figure out new ways to do things. I think it would be a good development for us and a good sign of growth for somebody
Totally.
Within this climate of risk and uncertainty to say, you know what, there's an opportunity here. I'm about to put a business license together and a business plan, and I'm going to get some funding together, and I'm going to try this out. I mean, invention is a great thing.
What's the one thing you can't do without if they're entering like that? What do you tell them?
What do I tell them personally?
Yeah.
It's one thing that I said in a president's message I wrote recently, is that we owe a debt as professional managers to people that came before us, payable to those that come after us. And to me, that means we want to be there for them to succeed. We want to be their source of information of what we've done in the past, what worked, what hasn't worked. And, what I would tell them is this is a new landscape. And if you're going to enter this world, if you are going to call yourself a professional manager, that comes with a great responsibility. It comes with the responsibility to deliver experiences to our guests, and it comes with the responsibility to keep our guests safe. And if you can rise to those challenges, and if you can put out a consistent product, then you're more than welcome to call yourself a professional, and hopefully we'll learn from each other.
I love that. I would tell them, be ready to work hard. This is not going to be it's not going to be a cakewalk. But then again, I don't write presidential messages.
Yeah.
I lied. That was not my last question. My last question has to do with advocacy, which is something that you and I have been talking about now for quite some time. What is your biggest concern on the advocacy front for our colleagues as this post-COVID world evolves?
Yeah, we are seeing it firsthand in Florida and Michigan, what the worst case scenario is, and what my concern is that our sector, our short-term rental sector within the travel economy, will be singled out and treated differently than, say, the hotel motel faction of our lodging industry. And that really disturbs me, what I've seen and what's going on the ground of singling out short-term rentals and not allowing them to operate when hotels are operating. And when you're putting together working groups to rebuild the economy, you purposely exclude short-term rental companies. I applaud the work the folks in Florida are doing. Shout out to them. They're fighting the good fight. Michigan's getting a lot of the same treatment. My concern is that's going to be more widespread as we go on. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really pushing standardization and articulating how we're keeping people safe in our industry. Because what a lot of policymakers don't understand is the product a vacation rental delivers is quite often as good as or better than hotels. We just don't get credit for it.
Yeah, totally. But of course, there's also we speak for the professional side of the industry, but then meanwhile, there are these idiots throwing Airbnb raves, and they make the perception a little bit more diluted. So my hope too would be that kind of standardization, at least getting everybody onto the same page, at least reaching out to governors and asking why vacation rentals are not deemed essential businesses. And I think it just more in general, it's going to be a real sort of a kick in the butt that now we have to go to work as community leaders. It is time. It's been too long that we have been putting off the real stuff, the heavy lifting. But at least in all the successful scenarios that I'm aware of, there is a very involved, concerned, but professional vacation rental business leader stepping up, organizing, raising their hand, acting on behalf of the group. I think the shift from sitting down and reacting to proactively standing up and representing, it's time. And if we don't do it, we all may be at risk. No?
Oh, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I've got you 200% on that one, and I think you understand the level of involvement I have here locally and statewide and at the national level. Look, if I could speak to everybody on the podcast for just a second, I'm going to agree completely with what Matt said here. The time for us to sit around and expect somebody else to do something about the regulations or restrictions or difficulties we're having with our local governments is over. You have got to get up, you have got to get off your butt, and you have got to get involved. We had been dealing with this at the national level for some time, and we've got guys like, you and Matt Curtis and Ben Edward. I mean, there's so many people that are so deep in trying to fight this, but we've had very limited support from the widespread management community. You guys got to get up, go to a council meeting, Tell them what you deliver to your industry and how you look after your guests. Speak to your local policymakers, write letters to your governors, get engaged with the VRMA. There's so many outlets to do this. Get up and do something. Speak out. Become a part of the solution, or the problem will never go away.
Amen. That's going to be the sound clip that we pull from this episode and encourage people to listen. They may be terrified. They may not. They may choose not to listen, but I don't really care because that's how good it was.
Did I put my dad voice on? I'm sorry. I'm a gentle giant. I'm sorry.
It's time for a little mean dad. Thanks, Toby.
Thank you, Matt. We'll talk to you soon.
I hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as I did having it. The episode was produced by Tammy Rowe and Stuart Hooper of Mango Fish Studios. Our intro song is The Moon of Pajang by Instant Party. And if you feel inspired, please consider sharing to social media with your big takeaway. We love takeaways. They make us feel great. Lastly, if you want to receive updates, you can do so at vrmb.com/mmm. And if you want to join our virtual community of vacation rental professionals, become a member of VRMB's Inner Circle today. Until next time.